Welcome to the first podcast of this season. My name is Daniella Abraham. I'm the interim head of volunteering at NCT, and I'm joined today by volunteer managers Jo Woodmand and Kathrine McCarrick, where we're going to be discussing all things volunteer management. So for our first topic, we are going to be discussing what motivated you to pursue a career in volunteer management. So Jo, do you want to go first?
I sort of fell into it. My background is in PE teaching, but I've always stuck my hand up to do things. I was a brownie in a world of volunteers and recognised that it was a fab thing and you get more out of stuff if you're prepared to put into it. So I volunteered with NCT for a long time, since my eldest, who is now 13. And when I had a career change, a temporary job popped up with NCT, and it ticked quite a lot of boxes, and that became a permanent job, and I am still here because of working with brilliant people and working with brilliant volunteers and challenging myself and doing lots of new skills all the time, and doing things I never thought I'd be doing, a bit like being here.
So you had the volunteer route into volunteer management. And how about you, Kathrine? How did you get into volunteer management, and what motivated you to pursue a career in it?
Yes, so I started in the charity sector as an admin assistant, and then I slowly progressed into community development, and a big part of that was working closely with volunteers, and I enjoyed that a lot. So I was working with people, I was supporting them to do something that they were really passionate about, and that passion always comes across when volunteers are giving up their time, and it's just something that I've continued to enjoy doing, and I've been working with volunteers across organisations for around 7 years now.
Amazing. It's a long time. Now, volunteer management isn't without its challenges. I'm sure we'd all agree with that. And due to the nature of our work, there's often some very unique challenges that a lot of other sectors just don't face. Now, on a personal level, balancing the needs of volunteers who have such a rich appetite for things like improvements and change, which need to be very carefully balanced sometimes with the strategic and operational requirements of an organisation, and also the limited resources, are a really big one for me. Now, specifically around being able to provide development opportunities for volunteers as well, because this can be limited due to budget or staff capacity. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a volunteer manager, and how do you overcome them? Kathrine, do you want to go first with this one?
Yes, I think sometimes it can be maintaining the boundaries for volunteers, just making sure that they know what the role is about. So managing expectations is really key here, making sure that volunteers know what they're signing up for, what the roles are, and what's expected within that. We don't want our volunteers to be taking on more than we expect of them, but providing that opportunity to ask for support and ask those questions wherever needed, just making sure that there is someone that they can go to, they can ask their questions, they can go, oh, should I be doing this? And we can help them with that one, whether it's yes, whether it's no, whether they need more additional training, and working with them quite closely. Communication is always key there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Jo, what about challenges that you faced as a volunteer manager?
It is definitely all about managing expectations, isn't it? That's the key phrase, making sure that what we're able to do and what our charity strategic aims are is what the volunteer is wanting to do as well. Marry the two up and then all is well. Kathrine's right, it is all about communication and making sure that we've said the right things, and the right things have been heard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, engaging and motivating volunteers can be really challenging. There are lots of different factors that can contribute to disengagement, and you've already covered this a little bit, Kathrine, but one that really springs to mind for me is around role misalignment, where a volunteer isn't suited to the task or the role that's been assigned to them, because that can lead to things like boredom or frustration. So I'm really keen to hear what your most effective strategies are for keeping volunteers engaged and motivated over time. Jo, what about you?
I think for me, it's about making a connection with the volunteer and making them feel part of a club, basically, and that we're all on the same page, so that there's not an us and them in terms of having a staff team and then the boots on the ground. Because, yeah, we can't be holding their hand or turning up through the door on each of their bumps and babies and their walking talks, even if we wanted to. But if they feel that they could get in touch with us, and they can get in touch with us through various different means, be that on email or through a phone call, and they can do that quickly, then they feel part of us, and they're more likely to speak with us and to share issues that they've got and come to us rather than making wilder decisions on their own. So yeah, keeping people engaged and feeling a togetherness about everything, I think, is the best way. And then perhaps recognizing when something needs to evolve and suggesting things, nudging things in the right direction.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Kathryn? Do you have anything else that you think is an effective strategy?
Yes, definitely. So building on that, with the recognition, I think recognition is so important. So it might be as simple as that little email to acknowledge the amazing things that a volunteer has done, saying thank you for your time, your effort for this one, or nominating them for local or bigger awards, things like that. I think once you acknowledge the effort and the motivation that a volunteer has, that hopefully motivates them to do more, because as I mentioned earlier, they're so passionate about the cause. We want to thank them for doing that. So thanking them, and yeah, that communication, just making sure you need a bit more support, come to us, we can see what we can do. Is there additional training? Is there something else that we can support you with? Just let us know and we will help you.
Yeah, and all of that reward and recognition that we've spoken about is actually free as well. So reward and recognition doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It can be something so simple that doesn't actually cost anything to the charity. Now, there's no denying that managing volunteers can be a really rewarding but a complex task. We've already discussed some of the challenges that we face as volunteer managers and how we overcome them. Volunteering is really agile. It moves at a pace which is different to any other that I've experienced in the private sector, which means that as volunteer managers, we have to also move at pace and bring our organisations along with us. There's lots of emerging trends that we could talk about, from things like digital tools to intergenerational volunteering. I spoke at a university a few months ago to a group of students, and many of those students saw a future for themselves as a digital nomad, being able to work remotely and then in turn volunteering remotely, which not all organisations are set up to offer to volunteers. So what challenges do you foresee for volunteer management in the future? And are there any emerging trends or challenges that you're particularly concerned about?
I don't know if I've got concerns, but it's just making sure that we always have eyes open, ears open, and working out what new trend is going to match up with us, even if it's not quite ready right here and now. But what do we need to be ready for in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, so we can be ahead of the game? Because we know that our volunteers will get on it if we're not there. So we want to make sure that we've tested things out or spoken with people, done a little trial, so that then in practice it can be as smooth as possible. So it's just trying to keep a pace, I think, is the main thing that I think is crucial in terms of making sure we capture volunteers. Otherwise they'll be onto the next thing way before that we've got there.
Yeah. Kathryn?
I think I agree with that. I think we see it a lot with social media, where Facebook, it was massive and everybody utilised it, but now TikTok might be a bigger thing. So trying to utilise that, but also, as you say, maintaining that, managing that, because we want to make sure what's going out there still matches the brand, matches the values that we hold. So I think that would be something that would be a challenge, just trying to stay on top of those trends. I think as well, just with life itself, recruitment might become more difficult in the future. There's changes in lifestyles. As you say, more people are going remote. So we're lucky we do offer those remote roles. So we do have that opportunity. But some people might not know about that. So how do we advertise that? What do we put out there to get people in with that? But as well, we've got the cost of living crisis. A lot of people might not have capacity to give up their time for free in the future. So it's just, what can we do to work around with that, listening to people's concerns, but then supporting them to, if they still want to volunteer, how can we do that? We've got lots of roles that are as little as 2 hours a month. So letting people know that, because sometimes if you're not aware of something, you can't get involved. So it's just, how do we maintain that? How do we support people in the future with that?
And I think you said one word there, Kathrine, which is really important, and it's listening to our volunteers. What do volunteers want? And also listening to the people that our volunteers support. What is it that they want as well? Are we offering them the right things? So I think listening is incredibly important. The landscape of volunteer management is constantly evolving. It's really exciting to consider the possibilities that lie ahead for us as volunteer managers, from emerging trends like digital volunteering to addressing challenges like resource limitations. We as volunteer managers have the opportunity to shape the future of this field by staying informed, adaptable, and committed to our mission. We can create a thriving volunteer ecosystem that benefits individuals and communities alike. I've been really fortunate myself to work with countless inspiring volunteers over the years. The dedication and passion that these volunteers have taught me really invaluable lessons about the power of human connection and the importance of giving back. It's my hope that this podcast and other podcasts that we offer inspire you to appreciate the work of those who dedicate their time and energy to making a difference. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and we hope to engage you again in our next podcast.